Have you ever wondered why some truck engines seem to run forever while others barely make it past warranty? What if I told you there are engines out there with over 1,000,000 miles on them, still running like they just rolled off the assembly line? Today we're counting down 10 of the most overbuilt truck engines ever created, absolute mechanical beasts that laugh at high mileage and basically refuse to die no matter how hard you try to kill them. These aren't just reliable engines. These are engineering marvels that have become legends. So buckle up and hit that subscribe button, because this list might just save you thousands on your next truck purchase. Number 10. Mercedes OM617 Diesel. The Mercedes OM617 might be the most unlikely truck engine on this list, but don't let its European pedigree fool you. This 5-cylinder mechanical diesel is an absolute tank. Mercedes built this thing between 1974 and 1991, and they apparently forgot to include a self-destruct mechanism. The engine found its way into everything from luxury sedans to military unimogs, and that versatility tells you everything you need to know about its durability. Here's what makes this engine special. It's completely mechanical. No computers, no sensors, no complicated electronics to fail, just pure mechanical injection that keeps pumping fuel as long as you keep turning the key. The indirect injection design means it runs on basically anything oily: vegetable oil, used motor oil, transmission fluid. People have run these things on filtered French fry grease from McDonald's. Seriously, the block itself is massively overbuilt cast iron with cylinder walls thick enough to stop a bullet. Well, maybe not literally, but you get the idea. The forged steel crankshaft rides on 5 main bearings that are sized for something twice as powerful. Mercedes designed this engine to produce about 80 horsepower, but the internals could handle 3 times that without breaking a sweat. That's German over-engineering at its finest. What really sets the OM617 apart is its complete indifference to maintenance. These engines have been found in African deserts, running after years of neglect with oil that looks like tar. They've been pulled from junkyards after sitting for decades, and with a fresh battery and some diesel, they fire right up. There's a reason why in developing countries, old Mercedes diesels from the 80s are still used as taxis with 500,000 miles on them. The timing chain is basically indestructible, the injection pump is rebuildable forever, and parts are still available worldwide because so many were made. In the truck world, particularly in Europe and Africa, these engines power everything from delivery vans to military vehicles. They're slow, they're noisy, and they shake like a paint mixer. But they will outlive you, your children, and probably your grandchildren. The OM617 isn't just overbuilt. It's practically immortal. Number 9. GMC Vortec 4.3 V6. The Vortec 4.3 might seem like an odd choice for a list of overbuilt truck engines. After all, it's just a V6, right? Wrong. This engine is literally a small block Chevy with 2 cylinders chopped off, and that heritage means it inherited all the durability of its big brother with even less stress on the components. GM introduced this engine in 1985, and they're still making versions of it today. That's almost 40 years of continuous production. Think about what this engine really is for a second. It's 3/4 of a 350 small block, one of the most proven designs in automotive history. But here's the kicker. GM didn't just remove 2 cylinders and call it a day. They kept the same massive main bearings, the same beefy connecting rods, and the same overbuilt bottom end. So you have an engine with components designed to handle 350 cubic inches of displacement, only dealing with 262. It's like using a sledgehammer to drive finishing nails. The 4.3 became the go-to engine for GM's mid-size trucks and vans, and for good reason. Fleet managers discovered these things were basically indestructible. Delivery companies would run them 300,000 miles without major repairs. Contractors beat on them daily, never changed the oil on time, and they just kept running. The secret is that sweet spot of engineering where everything is overbuilt for the power level. These engines make decent torque, around 260 pound-feet in most configurations, but they're never stressed. The camshaft is mild, the compression is conservative, and the valve springs barely work up a sweat. Parts are everywhere because GM used this engine in millions of vehicles, S10 pickups, Silverados, Astro vans, Safari vans, even some Oldsmobile and Buick SUVs. You can rebuild one with parts from any auto parts store in America. Here's something most people don't know. The 4.3 shares so many parts with the small block V8 that hot rodders have been swapping V8 heads and intakes onto them for decades. But for truck duty, the stock configuration is perfect. It's torquey enough to tow, efficient enough for daily driving, and tough enough to survive teenage drivers and work truck abuse. When mechanics joke about engines that run badly longer than most engines run at all, they're talking about the Vortec 4.3. Number 8. Cummins ISX15. Now we're getting into serious heavy-duty territory. The Cummins ISX15 isn't found in pickup trucks. This monster powers semi-trucks that haul 80,000 pounds across the country every single day. And when I say this engine is overbuilt, I mean it's designed to run 1 million miles between overhauls. Not a typo. 1 million miles. The ISX15 has a displacement of 15 liters. That's 912 cubic inches for those keeping track. The block is cast from compacted graphite iron, which is 50% stronger than regular cast iron. The crankshaft is forged steel and weighs over 200 pounds by itself. Just the crankshaft. The connecting rods are fractured cap design, meaning they're literally broken apart during manufacturing to create a perfect mating surface that's stronger than any machined joint. But here's where it gets really impressive. The ISX15 uses an overhead cam design with integrated engine brake. The rockers are roller-tipped, the cam followers are roller design, and everything runs on a high-pressure oil system that keeps tolerances tight, even after hundreds of thousands of miles. The turbocharger is variable geometry, constantly adjusting for optimal performance and efficiency. This isn't just an engine, it's a masterpiece of heavy-duty engineering. Trucking companies love these engines because they're not just durable, they're rebuildable. When an ISX15 finally does wear out after 1 million miles, you don't throw it away. You rebuild it in frame, meaning you don't even remove it from the truck. New liners, pistons, and bearings, and it's good for another 1 million miles. Some trucks are on their 3rd or 4th rebuild with the same basic engine block. The electronic control system is sophisticated enough to protect the engine from abuse while maximizing fuel economy. It'll derate power if it detects problems, adjust injection timing on the fly, and even predict maintenance needs. But underneath all that technology is an engine built like a bank vault. Cummins designed the ISX15 to haul America's freight reliably, and that's exactly what it does. Day after day, mile after mile, load after load. When truckers talk about engines that pay for themselves, this is what they mean. Number 7. Ford 7.3 Powerstroke Diesel. The 7.3 Powerstroke might be the most beloved diesel engine Ford ever put in a pickup truck. Introduced in 1994, this engine earned a reputation for being absolutely bulletproof. It's not the most powerful diesel Ford ever made, and it's definitely not the quietest, but when it comes to reliability, nothing else comes close. Ask any diesel mechanic what engine they'd want in the apocalypse, and most will say the 7.3. International Navistar actually built this engine for Ford, and they didn't mess around. The block and heads are cast iron, no aluminum anywhere. The rotating assembly is forged steel, including massive connecting rods that look like they belong in a locomotive. The injection system is HUI, hydraulically actuated electronic unit injection, which sounds complicated but is actually brilliantly simple. High-pressure oil fires the injectors, so there's no high-pressure fuel pump to fail. These engines routinely see 500,000 miles without major work. That's not exceptional. That's normal. There are 7.3 Powerstrokes with over 1 million miles still working every day. Farmers use them, contractors abuse them, and they just keep going. The turbocharger is conservatively sized, the compression ratio is moderate, and nothing is pushed to its limits. It's the opposite of modern diesel design philosophy. Here's what really makes the 7.3 special. It was designed before emissions equipment strangled diesel engines. No EGR, no DPF, no DEF fluid. Just a diesel engine doing what diesel engines do best, running forever with basic maintenance. The fuel system is dead simple compared to modern common rail systems. The glow plug system actually works in cold weather, and when something does break, any diesel shop can fix it with basic tools. The 7.3 powered Ford Super Duties, Excursions, and even some medium-duty trucks. It made about 250 horsepower stock, but with simple modifications, 400 horsepower is easy and still reliable. But most owners leave them stock because they know they have something special. An engine that will outlive the truck it's in, probably outlive them, and still be running when gasoline engines are in museums. When Ford discontinued the 7.3 in 2003, grown men literally cried. That's how good this engine is. Number 6. GM 6.6 Duramax LBZ. The Duramax LBZ, built from 2006 to early 2007, represents the sweet spot of modern diesel technology. It has common rail injection for power and efficiency, but predates the complicated emissions equipment that plagues newer diesels. Diesel enthusiasts call it the last of the reliable Duramaxes, and they're not wrong. This engine combines modern performance with old-school durability in a package that's nearly impossible to kill. GM and Isuzu co-developed the Duramax, and the LBZ variant got all the good stuff. Stronger connecting rods than earlier versions, improved head gaskets, and a tune from the factory that made 360 horsepower and 650 pound-feet of torque. But here's the thing. Those are conservative numbers. The internals can handle way more. Tuners regularly push these engines to 500 horsepower and 1,000 pound-feet of torque on stock internals, and they hold together just fine. The block is compacted graphite iron, same super strong material used in big rig engines. The crankshaft is forged steel. The pistons are cast aluminum with steel inserts, and the whole rotating assembly is balanced to perfection. The Bosch high-pressure fuel pump is bulletproof. The injectors last forever if you keep the fuel clean, and the variable geometry turbocharger provides instant response with no lag. It's everything a modern diesel should be, but what really makes the LBZ special is its tunability. With just a programmer, you can add 100 horsepower in 5 minutes. Want more? Bolt on a bigger turbo and injectors. And 700 horsepower is achievable while still daily driving the truck. The Allison transmission behind it is equally overbuilt, handling the power without complaint. This combination created a cult following that drives prices of LBZ trucks through the roof even today. The LBZ doesn't have the million-mile reputation of older mechanical diesels, but that's only because they're not old enough yet. These engines are just now hitting 300,000 miles in large numbers, and they're showing no signs of slowing down. When diesel enthusiasts talk about the perfect modern diesel, the LBZ always comes up. It's powerful, refined, and built like they expected it to last forever. Because knowing GM's luck with diesel engines before this, they had to make sure the Duramax was bulletproof, and with the LBZ, they absolutely nailed it. Number 5. International DT 466. The International DT 466 is the school bus engine. You know that distinctive diesel rattle you heard every morning waiting for the bus? That was probably a DT 466. International built these engines from 1991 to 2016, and they powered everything from school buses to delivery trucks to farm equipment. But their claim to fame is reliability that borders on supernatural. These engines don't just last a long time. They seem to exist outside the normal laws of mechanical wear. What makes the DT 466 so special is its wet sleeve design. Instead of boring cylinders directly into the block, International used replaceable cylinder liners that slide into the block. When the engine finally does wear out after 500,000 miles, you don't need to bore it or buy a new block. You just pop in new sleeves, and it's literally like having a new engine. This design is why you see 40-year-old buses still running their original engines. The internals are comically overbuilt for the power level. This 7.6-liter engine makes about 230 horsepower in most applications. That's it. But the rotating assembly could handle twice that without breaking a sweat. The connecting rods look like they belong in a much larger engine. The crankshaft is forged steel with journal sizes that would make a big block jealous. Everything is massive, everything is simple, and everything lasts forever. School districts love these engines because they're predictable. Maintenance schedules are measured in years, not months. Oil changes, filter changes, and occasionally a set of injectors. That's it. The mechanical injection system is dead simple. The turbocharger is conservatively sized, and there's no complicated electronics to diagnose. When something does go wrong, any diesel mechanic can fix it with basic tools and knowledge. Here's a true story that shows how tough these engines are. There's a documented case of a DT466 running for over an hour with no oil pressure after a catastrophic oil pump failure. The driver didn't notice the warning light. The engine kept running, got the bus back to the depot, and after repairs went on to serve for another 10 years. Try that with any modern engine. The DT466 isn't fast, isn't powerful, and isn't refined. But it might be the most overbuilt engine on this list relative to its intended use. It's the diesel equivalent of a cockroach. It'll survive anything. Number 4. Toyota 22R and 22RE. The Toyota 22R might be the most legendary four-cylinder truck engine ever built. Introduced in 1981, this 2.4-liter engine powered Toyota pickups and four-cylinders through some of the most abusive conditions on Earth. When Top Gear tried to kill a Toyota Hilux, it was a 22R that refused to die. They drowned it in the ocean, set it on fire, dropped it from a demolition crane, and it still started. That wasn't special effects. That's just how these engines are. The 22R uses a cast iron block with a forged steel crankshaft riding on 5 main bearings. That's right, 5 main bearings on a 4-cylinder engine. Most 4s have 3. The timing chain is double row, basically indestructible, and drives a camshaft with conservative valve timing that prioritizes reliability over power. The 22RE added fuel injection, making it even more dependable. These engines make about 116 horsepower, which isn't much, but they make it forever. Toyota trucks with these engines have become legends in developing countries where reliability isn't just important, it's life or death. In Australia, Africa, and South America, 20-plus-year-old Toyotas with 500,000 miles are still working every day. They haul supplies through deserts, climb mountains, ford rivers, and just keep going. The United Nations uses them. Armed forces around the world use them. If you need to get somewhere and absolutely cannot break down, you want a 22R. What's remarkable about these engines is how they handle neglect. There are documented cases of 22Rs running for years with no oil changes, just topping off as it burns or leaks. The valve adjustment is simple and rarely needed. The carburetor on the 22R is basic but bulletproof. The fuel injection on the 22RE is equally simple and reliable. Parts are available everywhere because Toyota made millions of them and they're still in daily use worldwide. The 22R and 22RE have achieved something special. They've become more than engines. They're symbols of reliability. When people talk about Toyota quality, this is what they mean. Not fancy technology or impressive power numbers, but an engine that starts every morning no matter what. An engine that your grandkids will inherit. An engine that defines what overbuilt really means. If the apocalypse comes and you need transportation, find something with a 22R. It'll outlast everything else, including you. Number 3. Chevrolet 350 Small Block Truck Spec. The Chevrolet 350 Small Block is arguably the most successful engine design in history. GM built over 100 million of them, but we're not talking about the high-performance versions. We're talking about the truck spec 350, the workhorse version that powered millions of pickups, vans, and SUVs. These engines were deliberately detuned for longevity, and the result is mechanical immortality. The truck 350 typically made between 190 and 250 horsepower, depending on the year and configuration. That's not impressive for 5.7 liters. But here's what you got in return. Thick cylinder walls that could be bored multiple times, a forged crankshaft in many versions that could handle twice the power, heavy-duty connecting rods that laugh at abuse, and a valve train so understressed it barely knows it's working. These engines powered GM work trucks that construction companies bought by the fleet. They idle for hours on job sites. They pull overloaded trailers in 100-degree heat. They start at 20 below zero without block heaters, and they do it for 300,000 miles without major repairs. The secret is that GM knew exactly how much to not engineer into them. No complicated variable valve timing, no aluminum blocks, no turbochargers, just a cast iron lump that converts gasoline into torque with total reliability. Parts availability for the 350 is absolutely unmatched. Every auto parts store in America has everything you need to rebuild one on the shelf right now. Not in a warehouse, on the shelf. You can build an entire 350 from aftermarket parts if you want. The design is so proven that the aftermarket has improved on every possible component. Want a stronger crank? Available. Better heads? Dozens of options. The 350 is like Lego for adults, but here's what really makes the truck Spec 350 special. It's the perfect combination of simple, cheap, and effective. When something does break, any mechanic can fix it. When it finally wears out after hundreds of thousands of miles, a rebuild costs less than a new refrigerator, and that rebuilt engine will last another 300,000 miles. The truck 350 isn't exciting, it's not high-tech, it won't win any races. But it's the engine that built America, literally. Every house, every building, every road was probably built with equipment powered by small block Chevys, and most of those engines are still running today. Number 2. Ford 300 inline-six. The Ford 300 inline-six might be the most underrated engine on this list. While everyone talks about V8s, this humble straight six quietly earned a reputation as the most indestructible gasoline engine Ford ever built. From 1965 to 1996, this engine powered millions of F-Series trucks, and it did. Something remarkable. It refused to die, ever. The 300 is a 4.9-liter engine with a unique feature: 7 main bearings. Most inline-sixes have 4, maybe 5. Ford used 7. The crankshaft is supported so well it practically can't flex or wear. The block is cast iron with walls thick enough to use as a boat anchor. The head is also cast iron with valves the size of dinner plates. Everything about this engine is overbuilt to an almost comical degree. But here's the real secret of the 300. It uses gear-driven timing instead of a chain or belt. Gears don't stretch. They don't skip. They don't break. They just mesh together and turn forever. This means the valve timing never changes, no matter how many miles you put on the engine. Combined with a low compression ratio and conservative cam timing, you have an engine that makes peak torque at about 1,600 RPM and could probably run on kerosene if it had to. Farmers absolutely worship the 300. It has tractor-like torque characteristics, pulling from idle without complaint. It'll lug down to 400 RPM without stalling. You can put it in third gear, let the clutch out, and it'll pull stumps out of the ground. The torque curve is so flat it's basically a straight line. It only makes about 150 horsepower, but it makes 260 pound-feet of torque at basement-low RPM. The stories about 300 durability are legendary. There are documented examples with over 500,000 miles with nothing but oil changes. Farmers run them in grain trucks that sit for months, then fire right up when needed. The valve train is non-interference, so even if the timing gears somehow failed, the engine wouldn't self-destruct. Parts are simple, cheap, and available everywhere. You can rebuild the entire top end with hand tools in an afternoon. The Ford 300 isn't fast. It's not powerful by modern standards. It won't win any efficiency awards. But if you want an engine that will outlive your grandchildren's grandchildren, this is it. It's the gasoline engine that refuses to acknowledge that engines are supposed to wear out. Number 1. Cummins ISX BT12 valve. Here it is, the king, the legend. The 5.9-liter Cummins ISX BT12 valve is widely considered the most overbuilt, understressed, utterly indestructible light-duty diesel engine ever created. From 1989 to 1998, this engine powered Dodge Ram pickups and created a cult following that borders on religious devotion. When diesel enthusiasts talk about the perfect engine, this is what they mean. The ISX BT is entirely mechanical, no computers, no electronics, nothing. It uses a Bosch P7000 rotary injection pump that could probably survive a nuclear blast. The block is cast iron with walls thick enough to contain twice the cylinder pressure. The crankshaft is forged steel with 7 main bearings. 7. On a 6-cylinder engine. The connecting rods are so massive, they look like they belong in a piece of mining equipment. Every single component is overbuilt to an absurd degree. The head uses 12 valves, 2 per cylinder, with gear-driven timing that will never skip or fail. The turbocharger is simple, reliable, and conservatively sized. Stock, these engines made about 160 horsepower. That's it. But here's the thing. With simple mechanical modifications, 400 horsepower is easy and still totally reliable. 500 horsepower, no problem. People are making 800 horsepower on stock bottom ends and daily driving them. But raw power isn't what makes the 12-valve Cummins special. It's the fact that these engines routinely see 1 million miles in commercial use, not rebuilt, original. There are documented cases of these engines going 2 million miles with basic maintenance, oil changes, filters, and maybe a set of injectors every few 100,000 miles. That's not a typo. Million-mile Cummins engines are so common that they don't even make news anymore. The 12-valve Cummins has become more than just an engine. It's a cultural phenomenon. People swap them into everything. Ford trucks, Chevy trucks, Jeeps, even cars. The aftermarket support is incredible. You can buy every single part brand new. The knowledge base is encyclopedic. Every possible problem has been solved, documented, and posted online. If something goes wrong, which is rare, any diesel shop can fix it with basic tools. This engine represents the pinnacle of mechanical simplicity, meeting absolute overbuilding. No emissions equipment, no complicated electronics, no weak points, just cast iron, steel, and mechanical injection working in perfect harmony. It's loud, it's dirty by modern standards, and it shakes like a paint mixer at idle. But it will run forever, and then keep running. When archaeologists dig up our civilization in 1,000 years, they'll find 12-valve Cummins engines, and they'll probably still start. That's not hyperbole, that's just what happens when engineers forget to include planned obsolescence. The 6BT 12-valve Cummins isn't just the most overbuilt truck engine. It might be the most overbuilt anything humans have ever created. And there you have it. That's 10 of the most overbuilt truck engines that absolutely refuse to die no matter how badly you treat them. Which of these indestructible power plants would you want under your hood? Have you owned any of these legendary engines? Drop your stories in the comments below, because I know you've got some good ones. And if you enjoyed this breakdown of mechanical immortality, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the machines that refuse to quit. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.